Hello. Thanks for coming out tonight, and let's hear from Mr. Buddy Teisch. Can we? It is such a delight for me to introduce Sarah to you tonight. So many things have been written and said about her. She has been called outrageous and groundbreaking and brilliant. So let me just add one thing from me. I love her. Sarah Silverman.
Oh, buddy. Hello. Wearing a lady outfit.
I have never seen you. I've never seen you this dressed up. That you look like you have a riding career of some sort.
Yeah. I'm gonna dressage this chair soon.
Dressage. Very impressive. Very impressive. You know what? I just want to say something. Don't you love Sarah Silverman? You're all here for. I just wanted to start with a little bit of.
I can't hear you.
that is quite, because you know what? If you can make it at the 92nd Street Y, you will also make it at the JCC. I mean, this is a discerning 100% Jewish audience. Gosh, we have so many things to talk about, but the first thing, obviously, is I want to talk about We Are Miracles, your HBO special, because that's what this is all about. It is very hard to go anywhere in New York City without seeing like a poster for this. This is the most well-promoted thing. It's unbelievable. I saw a huge, gigantic billboard in Times Square today, so you should feel good about that. What's it gonna be? What's the deal with the show? What's it gonna? I saw your concert film, Jesus is Magic. Uh-huh. Is this like part 2 of that? Does it bear some similarities to that, or is it a completely different thing?
I mean, it does seem thematic. I didn't really do it on purpose, title-wise, but Jesus' Magic was almost 10 years ago now. But it was my last and first special, and now here's the next one. It's different because I'm different, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm not like I feel like I was more of a character. This is such a good sound system.
I know, it's amazing. Some people in our audience have trouble hearing, so it's a good thing to have.
But it really is.
No offense, but.
Don't you think in comedy, sound is the #1 thing, but half the time you're in a club where you're talking into a tin can. It's nice that
No, it's nice. People will hear everything we say.
It sounds, maybe it's just the monitors are really good facing us. I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah.
How interesting is this discussion of the sound system? You know, we said we were going to have Andy and Sarah talk about audio preferences for an hour or so, and we're delivering. We're delivering. But no, what was interesting to me about Jesus' Magic is it was an unusual concert film because it wasn't a straight concert film. You did sort of music videos and you did some filmed bits along with your stage stuff. Does this combine those techniques, or is this all stage?
No, it's very different. That had a lot of kind of Easter eggs in it. There were songs, and it would go into scenes, and God, I remember the director spent 40 hours making a tear that I flick off like this after a joke. And he spent 40 hours making the tear that then Steve Agee, who plays a stagehand, catches in the wings and uses as lubrication to masturbate with. Mm-hmm. This is much more straightforward. You know, I also was a little more of a character then. I was playing a bit of a character, kind of the very arrogant ignoramus, you know, which kind of carried into the series I did on Comedy Central. And this is, I'm actually saying what I mean and not the opposite of what I mean in this special. And it's just the stand-up set. I mean, there are bookend scenes at the beginning and end, but it's just a straightforward, very intimate show with only 39 people in the audience. So it's like 3 rows, you know, here.
Mm-hmm. I've done shows like that here, actually. Very intimate. So where did you, I noticed it was like, because when I think of HBO comedy specials, I usually think of like things in like big theaters and, Eddie Murphy and, and Chris Rock, big things. But this is very, where do you shoot it, in a very small club someplace?
Yeah, there's a club in LA called Largo.
Oh yeah, very famous.
And I love it, and it seats about 300, maybe a little under. But they have a tiny little kind of wine bar mini theater attached, just called the Little Room at Largo. And I did it in there. And I thought, ooh, 50 people. It only seats 50 people, and that'll be so intimate. And I thought it would be really cool. And that's a really small amount of people. And then it was 50 total, like including me and the crew. So it was just 39 people.
And how did you find, which 39 people got to go see that show?
You know what, I really did want to kind of try to handpick, even though they're all strangers. I didn't want people who've seen me too much. I wanted to kind of like get a good mix of people. So I had there's a website, A Special Thing, that's so niche, it's really like just super fans of comedy go to it. And they did a favor for me and just said, like, I gave them something to post that says, do you like Sarah Silverman? Have you never seen her live? Can you be in LA on this date? Write a quick email saying why you want to go and how many people and what color you are. No, I didn't get that. And I just wanted to get a good mix of people, but I mean, I didn't, it's not much control over it. It's just basically 39 people.
You're such a good actor, and I'm used to you playing versions of, well, they're really not yourself at all. They're just a character who appears to be yourself but isn't you at all. And this was interesting because this, to me, was sort of stripped down. It was very unadorned. It was just you talking and saying things that you really feel. And that, in a way, seems kind of courageous. I think of a lot of stuff that you've done as courageous, which we'll talk about, but I feel like that is kind of a different kind of courage, because here it's like, hey, I'm actually just saying things that are funny, that are honest, that I think, rather than I've created this very ironic character which you then have to decode. This is like much more like, this is me, folks.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. In the first special and the first half of my career, I kind of built on saying the opposite of what I meant.
Right.
And hoping that what's that math term? The absolute power transcends.
I did not do the reading for this interview.
Well, that like -7 or 7 are both 7.
Oh, okay.
But,
that I understand.
Right?
Right. I think the word he meant was hypotenuse.
You just want to say hypotenuse.
I did. But yeah, so you were,
Hypotenuse.
your first influence that you're amazing, of course. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be.
Thank you. It's funny how we complete each other's sentences.
Sentences. I was late.
A little late. You've talked about how like one of your earliest comic influences was Steve Martin when you were a little kid, and like it seemed like Steve Martin, sort of the master of creating this kind of ironic character. He was this kind of jerky, arrogant, self-confident character. Do you remember like what the first Steve Martin bit you saw was, or what were some of the things that he did that captured your imagination so much as a little girl?
I loved everything from like Let's Get Small, and I liked his cavalier kind of, you get the idea that he's a smart guy, but he has nothing to prove. Mm-hmm. I'm talking pre-New Yorker days, but even then I do love him. But I mean, like, he found joy in being very base, but it wasn't totally base. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense, or am I just saying it in a hoity-toity way and hoping people infer it as smart?
No, but I know what you're saying. But he's like, you have to be smart to play dumb sometimes. Like to be the kind of like, I'm a jerky, arrogant guy. You have to be smart to be able to do that.
His books, you know, where he would describe, you know, I'm going to paraphrase this terribly, but like, you know, when she turned it sounded like a million doves taking flight, and you know, this beautiful like love poem, and then at the end it's like, but most of all, she had the jugs, you know. I mean, like, right? I just love that.
It's the high-low thing.
Yeah.
So like you were in college in New York. You were at NYU, and you started straying into stand-up. What was the draw to get into it initially? Like you had done some theater and stuff like that as a kid, but I think it's always like a big leap to say, hey, I'm going to actually go up on stage and do an open mic or whatever. What was your?
I always wanted to be a stand-up comedian since third grade, and but I also wanted to be like Eponine in Les Mis. And I did stand up in Boston in summer school after my junior year of high school, and I remember walking into the club. It was Stitches on Commonwealth Avenue, and as I walked in, and I have very few vivid memories because I smoke a lot of pot, and but I walked in only when all work is done and just a puff or two as a treat.
Buddy Teich, same thing, you know.
Yeah, well, Buddy was so high.
I know. He had that spliff.
I never smoke pot, like if I were to come here, but I have found that if I smoke a little pot before I play basketball, I love playing basketball, I become amazing. I really do. And I hear myself saying things like, not on my watch, a lot. What was the question? Because I was excited about my answer.
The question was, have you ever tried heroin?
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was what I was thinking. No, I was asking, like, what was your first, but you said you always wanted to do it since you were in third grade.
I
but then
remember
you did it in Boston,
walking into Stitches Comedy Club, and here's the stage, and Wendy Liebman was on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the joke
Wendy
exactly. Who continues to be so brilliant, and so singular. There's really nobody like her. She created a kind of form of joke that is only hers, you know. And she said, and I looked at, you know, I got to the front and I was watching her, and she said, somebody told me that I look like Ruth Buzzy. And then she said, I don't know who that is. Is she pretty? And I just thought that was amazing. But I think maybe I got influenced by that, because there's that kind of, for a long time I played with that kind of innocent saying on purpose I just lost interest in my own sentence. I feel like we can all finish it. Next question.
So you had kind of when you were first doing like open mics, you had more of you hadn't figured out this persona of a person who said really objectionable things. So what were your early, do you remember any of your early jokes before you found that?
Well, first of all, I remember, the first time I did TV, and that's how I noticed this, is I talked like this on stage. I had a real kind of made-up voice that I thought would be a comedy voice. And let's see, I remember one of my high school jokes, which was, if you say, oh, it's so terrible. If you say something that rhymes by accident, what do you say? I'm a poet and I don't even know it. But what if you say something free verse by accident? What do you say? I'm a poet and I never realized that. I went back into my voice.
That's not so bad. I think the delivery at the end.
I found a notebook,
voice.
A comedy notebook from when I was like 19, and I found the greatest terrible joke. It was, I don't know why my fish died. I put it in a tank top.
That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. I wanted to go out on top. Well, let's go out on a big laugh.
Yeah.
So,
lots of bad comedy.
Yeah. Well, so how did you discover this idea of being the person who got up on stage and said horrible things that were the opposite of what you meant? If you wanted to boil it down to that, I know it's more complicated than that. But how did that develop? Like, when did you first get a set together where it was like, okay, I'm not a girl getting up here saying funny things. I'm like a character. I'm like this different person.
It was just a very slow, gradual process. And, I think I was at first surprised by the shock, by the reaction of shock, because I grew up in a household, and I didn't realize this until later, that had no boundaries and not even in a necessarily a bad way, but just no filter.
Well, I think you said your dad helped teach you to swear, right?
Yeah, my dad, was the kind of dad. He taught his 3-year-old me, lots of swears, and he was really tickled by it. And it made a lot of sense looking back. Like, I said a bunch of swears, and all these adults gave me wild approval, by their laughing despite themselves. And I remember it made my arms itch with joy. And I became addicted to it. So, at a very early age, I definitely found the rewards of shock and the contrast of being literally a toddler or a little girl and saying things that were more adult or not things you expect to come out of the mouth of a little girl. And I think that probably informed a lot of my comedy.
One thing that I find interesting about your career is that you established this skill, this talent for shocking people in this way, where you would get up and say things that people aren't supposed to say, and like a nice girl isn't supposed to say.
Ooh.
Exactly. And it's very well established at this point that you do this, and you've gotten so much acclaim and rewards for it, and yet so many people do not understand that is what you're doing. So many people still think, oh, well, Sarah Silverman espouses X, Y, and Z. And is there fun in that for you, that some people are still baffled that they don't see the irony in it? Or is that, it feels to me like that's a necessary thing that goes along with the shock, that some people are going to be genuinely shocked and not understand that this is an act.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom in realizing that I have no control over that.
Right.
And I cannot control how people are going to infer the things I say. And a lot of times I feel like people decide to take things a certain way or take just certain words and say, she said this, and that's true, but I actually said this,
right.
And you're taking this out of it. And I guess that could get frustrating, but you can't take any of it very seriously. I tell myself and my friends when they get, who are all comedians as well, mostly, you're the only one Googling you.
Yeah,
so
that's
relax.
True.
And you're certainly the only one Googling you and sorting it by date. So it's not as bad as you think. The world there's other things going on.
Well, I actually look at it the other way. I think it's a sign of your success, because I think that there are a lot of people who have done acts that are shocking, or they'll do a character that is saying egregious things, like, Stephen Colbert, his character is this right-wing maniac, and yes.
Well, and the Bush administration had him do the Correspondents' Dinner completely thinking that he was a Republican comedian.
Right. It's good.
That's amazing.
And that worked out so well for everybody, really.
It's funny because he technically bombed, but he was unbelievably brilliant.
No,
I think he stunned the people that thought that that did not understand who he was, and
no, I think it was one of the most. I mean, I think it's where comedy sometimes sort of gets into this area of like performance art, where it's so brilliant, and in a way, failure with a part of the audience is a necessary component of that.
It made it it made it amazing.
Yeah, I remember once going to a show. This was probably somebody's terrible idea, but it was in the 90s, and it was a big benefit in Hollywood. It was a cancer benefit. It was a really great cause.
Oh, those are always funny.
Always funny. Well, that was one of the problems. They did an introduction, and they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny." And the audience it was an older crowd of Johnny Carson fans. They were so excited that Johnny Carson was going to be there. And out came Dana Carvey doing his Johnny Carson imitation. And it took people about a minute to realize that it was not Johnny Carson. It was Dana Carvey. And then I would say a certain mood of fury set in the audience, where they said, oh wait, not only is this guy not Johnny Carson, this is somebody who's absolutely eviscerating Johnny Carson in front of our eyes. And it got quieter and quieter in the room, and he just kept going, and it was relentless, and I was just laughing my ass off, because the element of failure in the room was one of the things that made it so brilliant.
But failure feeds comedy.
Yes, and he was fearless. I mean, and I think that is one of the things that I think has been great about what you've done, which is because a lot of these comedians I'm talking about have had, I would say, a fairly extreme persona. Like Colbert, only George W. Bush wouldn't figure out what he was. That's a very extreme, he has a very extreme persona, so you can really, the discerning eye would figure out that he's, making fun of like a right-wing commentator. But you're, when you've played a character, or that character, for lack of a better word, it's been very unnerving, because it's so close to, it's a seemingly nice person or normal person who's saying things that people find objectionable. And I think that, to me, is what's so courageous about what you do, because you're not really, it is a character, but you're not hiding behind sort of an outrageous mask.
It is interesting when it's not just black or white. Like I know I said in this special, I'd say what I mean, and then it occurred to me that I said at a certain point that I want to adopt terminally ill children, that I want to adopt a baby, but I don't want like a 10-year-old in 10 years. And so I came up with the solution that I would adopt terminally ill babies every 6 months to 2 years-ish, or whatever. And it's very dark, but it didn't come from me feeling the opposite way. It came from me...
A practical solution.
No, it came from me actually thinking about adopting, a sick or disabled child. But that's not funny, so.
They're laughing.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean?
Right,
it came from like an actually sincere place that is not the opposite of what I meant. I just, made it a little less sensitive sounding.
Did you do that? Was that the bit that you did as part of a TED Talk, or am I imagining?
It became that.
This is kind of celebrated. Tell us the story, because I've never heard the whole story from you.
They asked me to do TED Talks.
Bad idea. Going in.
I was so excited, because that's something my mom and I watched TED Talks online, and they're amazing. And but I immediately, and my manager's here, I said, go back and make sure they know who I am, and that there isn't someone else. There are probably many Sarah Silvermans, and I just don't want any misunderstandings. She said they said they know. I said that I'm dirty, that I am not for everyone. They said nope. They said that's what the TED Talks are about: different views, different things, sharing. I said okay, and then they gave me the topic. I think it was like tomorrow or something. It's always very basic. You can kind of wedge anything into. And I had some material that I kind of was working on that seemed to fit, and I made like a PowerPoint presentation But it was all new stuff, which I tend to do in the big things. Like when I go on a talk show, I tend to do stuff that then after the talk show I go, ooh, that could be material, you know, like I know it should be the other way around. So I had written this thing about adopting, no, it was that same joke, but it was in its first form, which on TED Talks was about mentally challenged, adopting mentally challenged kids. I don't remember how it went because now I've done it the other way and everything.
I think it combined mentally challenged kids and terminally ill kids for maximum comic effect.
Yeah, it was basically that joke, but with mentally challenged children, but I don't know how that works because they don't necessarily aren't dying, or they're kids forever. I don't know what it was, but it was basically that. It was basically that joke. I can't remember how it was different. It was in a more raw form.
And just to set the stage a little bit, where were you doing this TED Talk, and what was the audience? What was the audience like?
They were pretty sciencey. I think Thomas Dolby was the musical person, you know, and you know, there's a lot of science people, a lot of like, I remember there's a guy who did something about houses made of meat. But he's not offensive. And you know, whole communities made of meat and stuff, and farming ears and things, and really interesting. I love all this stuff. I went up, I thought I did great. I mean, and I'm so clueless, I think, and I got off stage and they even said, they want you to come back. And I was like, oh my God, and I came back and people were clapping, and then I had to leave because I had a benefit to do. And it wasn't until a day or two later, I was on my way to visit my mother. And on Twitter, the guy who runs TED, Chris Anderson, British man, who I had a phone call with before saying, I can, there's no parameters, there's no, we want you to be you know, tweeted to his 1.5 million followers, I know I shouldn't say this about one of our, what would you call it, performers or presenters, but I thought Sarah Silverman was god-awful. And I was just so surprised because I have so much love for the TED Talks, and I felt kind of betrayed because I like quadruple checked and really worked hard on it and was nervous and excited about it, and I guess he had. It's funny because Temple Grandin was in the audience. She had done a presentation, and I have since worked with her. You know, it's funny. It's not the. I've worked a lot with. Can I say retarded adults? Can I say retarded to mean retarded? I don't even know what mentally challenged adults. I've worked a lot with this. I have a great love for retarded adults. I want to say whatever is the latest thing because I believe in doing that. You know, I used to say, and now I'm going off into a million tangents, and I can't imagine what's in your head right now.
No. I'm just trying to think if there's a better word for retarded.
I feel there must be mentally challenged, but you never hear mentally challenged adults. I really want to know because retarded is an actual word that means to retard, retarded,
slow, not advancing.
But I don't say it derogatorily. And it makes me think of gay. I was very protective of saying gay for a while. I say gay, I'm from Boston. I don't mean gay homosexual. I mean gay like, lame, or whatever. And then I heard myself and I thought, I sound like the guy who says, what, I call black people colored. That's not racist, that's what we're doing. And that man is right. He is earnestly from a time, but you have to change with the times. Right. You have to.
Right.
So that was a good lesson for me. Point being what, Sarah?
Temple Grandin. You said something about Temple Grandin.
She was there. So anyway, he writes this thing.
I got you back.
What I think is Chris Anderson, maybe someone said something to him that made him panic, and he disassociated from me.
I mean, probably one person or two people said something, and so he decided to tweet that.
Yeah, and he wouldn't post it. You know, they post all the TED Talks. He wouldn't post it, which secretly I think I was happy about, because there was a lot of raw material that I knew I could make much better. And also, it's more badass to be the one that they won't post your TED Talk.
That's right.
It makes it seem much better than it probably was. But just for him to tweet that was so odd, and I didn't respond for a while, and then I remember I wrote something like, congratulations at Chris Anderson, or whatever his thing is, for making the TED Talks an unsafe haven for all. You are a barnacle of mediocrity on Bill Gates' asshole. Because I feel like
that is a really good tweet.
He's not doing a TED Talk. He's a curator. He isn't the people doing the TED Talks, but he associates with them, and by association, he feels very hoity-toity. And then the second he thinks your shit might stink, he cuts the cord. And I don't think that's a very safe haven for a place that's supposed to be a safe haven of shared ideas.
Right. Right. Well, he just, yeah.
I know I said safe haven twice. What?
This is a very out of control audience. You have to be very careful with them. They're very ill-behaved. Yeah. Well, you know, that's the thing, is like they always say we want things to be edgy and blah, blah, blah. That's an overused term.
Right, that's like every network.
Everybody says we want edgy, and then you hand it in. It's like, oh, we didn't mean that. We didn't mean that we wanted you to be honest. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's like network TV when they tell you they really want to do something and you forget. It's almost like how God or science or nature makes you forget the pain of childbirth so you'll have another baby. And, you know, you go, I'm never going to do network again. What a terrible experience. I don't fit there. And then they go, we are interested in you. And you go, really?
Right. and we really want you to do what you do.
We want you to do what you do. I remember
push the envelope.
Yeah. I mean, I remember saying to the head of NBC, Bob Greenblatt, he had just come in from Showtime, and he had so many big ideas, and I truly believe he earnestly did. And he said, I'm from Showtime. I'm a Nurse Jackie. I want to make a Showtime show for NBC. And I said, oh, that's so exciting to me. You know, I said, I'm not wary of network because I want to say pussy on NBC. I just want to be able to be far out without a network worrying about what people in Poughkeepsie think, you know, like, I think people in Poughkeepsie like far out stuff.
That's right.
But they'll never know.
So the process with NBC was it like, would they chip away at was it like by attrition, would like it get less and less interesting, or not really?
I don't have ill will towards them.
You did a pilot for them a couple years ago.
I did a pilot for them, and they even let me post on the internet, which was very gracious of them. Usually they don't do that kind of stuff. And it's not, the thing about network, in my opinion, is it's not that it's so bad, it's just that you literally have to jump through 11 hoops for every shit you take, and it's just wears you down. I don't like that lifestyle. It's placating egos, like a separate thing of notes for the studio and then a separate thing of notes for the network, and it's just like silly wastes of time that irk me. And
well, you know, what's interesting is that attitude, the kind of gatekeeper attitude, made a little more sense when networks were getting millions of viewers. Now the networks are getting fewer viewers than AMC. It makes zero sense.
It's bizarre because the stakes and the money at stake at networks, compared to how irrelevant they've become, are so uneven that there's almost no winning. I mean, if I were programming a network, I would have it be live sports and live call-in voting talent-y shows. And that's it. And maybe rerun proven shows that other places took chances on that succeeded.
Right. No, but that actually makes sense. And maybe that's what it ultimately will be. I mean, live sports is one, and big events, those are like two of the only things that networks can do right. And then everything else, you know, you can now do you can do streaming on Netflix, and you can do all the cable stuff. So they are becoming irrelevant. And in a way, like the arrogance of the people in charge is that's almost like a sideshow. It's sort of beside the point because the market forces are changing the whole thing anyway.
And it's just funny, like, you're so like daunted by these big suits, but then you can also go like, oh, I'll still be here next year. Like, you won't be. You won't be.
I remember
I mean, it changes over so comically.
I remember Norman Lear once had this great line where he had gotten some show canceled, I think by ABC or something, and he said to the executive, he said, like, you know, I can go into a room and come out like a few hours later with a script, and what can you do? And that was kind of true. I mean, it's like the creative people ultimately do have power because they can continue to produce. You do stuff like
But that's not very nice. I mean, I love Norman Lear, though. I'm sure it was good. But that's like saying, like, to a guy in a wheelchair, like, I can walk 10 blocks.
I know.
What can you do?
I know.
But the guy in the wheelchair doesn't control the guy who can walk's life and livelihood.
No, it's true.
All
I
right.
think, you know, it was in a fit of pique.
We can cut out that last 30 seconds, right?
When it airs on NBC, which it will. But you're doing stuff like it seems like you're doing some stuff that is, you know, for traditional outlets. HBO is a traditional outlet at this point; it's very established. You're doing a new pilot for HBO. Are you at liberty to talk about that, or?
I cannot talk. No, I don't know.
I think it's been announced.
The worst thing
so
you can tell me is to not talk about.
No,
something.
but it's been in the press.
Yeah. No, it's a pilot. I have no idea if it will. That's one thing that it's like, at least stand up I can count on, and it's mine, and I have control over it, and it's fun. I did this pilot for HBO called People in New Jersey, and it was so fun. And I love it, but it's interesting, you know, like, I don't know what my life is gonna be. I don't know if I'll be living here 4 months of the year or whatever, because if they pick it up or not, you know, it's interesting to kind of put your life in people's hands like that, but it was so fun. It's, you know, I remember the guy who wrote it, Bruce Eric Kaplan, who has written on many shows and is also a New Yorker cartoonist.
Hilarious,
very funny, and
Patti LuPone.
on the bottom of the... Patti LuPone plays my mother. I know. It's like she might be Italian, but the Jews are her people. I know, actually, we play a Jewish family, and I'm the only Jew in it. But it's Topher Grace, the great Jewish actor Topher Grace. And I play brother and sister, and she's our mother. And there's no high concept about it. It's just characters. It's character-driven, so there's not much to say. I work at Lord & Taylor, and he's a locksmith. But Patti LuPone is... I mean, I already knew that I worshipped her and that I, you know, was a huge fan, but I thought maybe there would be some tantrums, so I was excited either way. But she happens to be the loveliest woman I've ever met. She lives in South Carolina with her husband and Connecticut, and knew everyone's name. Was just, and her. I usually really never break, and I couldn't keep it together with her. She's so crazy funny in this. It was amazing. So that was very exciting for me.
Well, so you're doing that. You've done stuff for HBO. You had this fantastic. I'm still in love with your Comedy Central show. It's one of the best sitcoms, funniest.
Thank you.
You have some of the fans.
I love
Now that
it
to me, you see, that to me came. I don't know how you felt. That seemed like such a great expression of you. Like it felt like it had your personality, and it was like there didn't seem to be that filter that you were talking about, like where there were, we talk about the networks stripping things away. Was that as fun a creative experience? It looked like you were having fun.
It was the most, we all from that show worry that it will be the best times of our lives.
But that's okay. But that's okay to even get that once, though, because it's hard to do that on TV.
I mean, I made a show with my best friends, acted with my best friends, and my sister. I mean, there was a day that I had a bad day. You know, like I was sad about something outside of the show, and we were coincidentally shooting in my bed with my real dog in my fake bed, you know, but it's still very cozy. And I was trying to keep it together. It's so sad. I remember what I was sad about. I was just like, I don't have an emergency contact, which is something I get hung up about a lot. And it was just so special because you fall in love with the crew, and I just couldn't talk when the camera rolled and everything, and I went, you know, and you just can't even talk, and you can't hold it back anymore, and like tears are just falling out of your eyes, and the floodgates went, and the director who I created the show with as well, Rob Schraub, who's such a beautiful heart of a person, and you know, was like, let's take 10 minutes or whatever, and and then he came over and he said, you want me to get Laura? You know, my own sister was in her dressing room waiting for the next scene. And I mean, what a neat situation. You know, she came and she got into our pretend bed with me, and Duck, my dog, was there, and it was like so special. And I got to have my big sister, who played my little sister in the show, because she looks so good, just like stroke my hair and hold me and tell me stories that she remembers from when I was little. And, you know, the tears kind of turned into just being moved, you know, by being surrounded by such people I loved, you know. And even the cameraman, Ron Vito, she said, do you feel better? Do you want to start again? I said, yeah, but I know when I see Ronnie Vito's face, I'm going to cry, because I know that he loves me so much and probably feels bad. But I don't know what that story is, other than it was just a really, really special, great time. And even, you know, the sad times were great times.
You mentioned your sister. You're one of four sisters, and you guys are all close, like you all get on. That to me is one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard. Now, just not for a comedian, but just for a person. Because, you know, in every family, I mean, you usually hear about there's one that, you know, everybody doesn't like, or that everybody gangs up on. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking from experience, but...
At any given time, the other three are talking about another one, but we are very close.
And one of your, I'm not saying this just because we're at the Y, but one of your sisters is a rabbi.
Yes.
Isn't it?
A rabbi.
Yeah, and and you're not a religious, you have a lot of Jewish identity, but you're not a religious person. But
yeah, I have no religion.
When you and your sister, the rabbi, get together, like, does she ever talk about God and stuff, or is that
you know, it's funny. You know, we're very close because she's the oldest and I'm the youngest. So in a lot of ways, you know, she was my mommy in a lot of ways, and we have a very tender, you know, like we think of each other at 11/11, and you know, on 11/11/11, we've had this plan for like 20 years, and it just happened 2 years ago, I guess. We met in New York because she lives in Israel, and we went to the 11th Street Cafe at 11 o'clock and took a picture.
That must have been amazing.
It was amazing, but it was, you know, we saw a play, and it doesn't matter. But she's very proud of me,
right?
You know, and it's funny because you can be religious and even a rabbi and love people who don't share the same views as you,
right?
You know, and that's, to me, is inspiring. I mean, I remember getting bitchy with her not long ago, and I was like, oh, you believe in God? You believe there's a man in the sky? And which isn't a nice thing to say to someone who's dedicated their life to this.
No, it doesn't.
She didn't get defensive at all, and she just said, well, I like to live my life as though there is one. And I was like,
Smack.
She's so special, and yeah, we love each other very, very much.
I was reading, I thought it was pretty funny, given that your sister is a rabbi. I was reading that a couple years, I guess about a year ago, a rabbi attacked you very prominently. Not a prominent rabbi, but attacked you in a prominent way. And his beef with you, if I'm not mistaken, was he disagreed with your views. He thought your views were really heinous. And he also was angry with you for not having children, which seemed strange. Like, I don't like her, and I'm sorry she's not reproducing and making more of her.
It was not
consistent with me. What was that? Where did he even? Had he seen your TED Talk? What was his? What was his thing? What set him off?
You know, I would have never seen it except for that my dad, which I assume we'll get to, immediately commented, and it got picked up by Huffington Post.
Your dad was awesome.
And that's
said,
where
like, don't fuck with my family.
Because my dad, of course, is constantly Googling me.
Yes.
And saw it. That's what he did right there. Don't fuck with my family.
He was very badass.
My dad is the kind of guy who says fucking every few words, but with joy. You know? Like, and I've always grown up with that. You know, I'm such a fucking lucky daddy. I mean, I can't believe this. You know, like, he's the happiest guy. He'll come visit and we'll drag him around doing shitty errands all day. And he will be like, I am the luckiest guy in the world. And we're like, so sweet. Okay, so this guy wrote something about, and to be honest, I skimmed it, but he wrote an open letter to me saying something about that I'm spending my time thinking and talking about politics because I don't have a husband and a family and children. And that's the greatest gift I can give to myself and others is the gift of being a mother and you know, whatever. That just says so much about himself.
Right, right.
And it doesn't bother me at all personally. I mean, it's like this, you know. But my dad went crazy and, oh, you Orthodox Jew, you know, oh, my granddaughter serves in the army. Oh, yeah, you don't do that. And blah, 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 and all this stuff. And my daughter's, you know, this and my step. And it was honestly an opportunity for him to brag about all his kids. Really nothing more than that. The Huffington Post picked it up and it got picked up all these places. And I was really surprised by how many people said stuff to me about it and said, I wish I had your dad, and I am so proud of him, and he tickles me so much, and you know, I don't mean to brag, but Marianne Williamson lives in my building, and I read her at a very young age and was influenced by her, and I think she's neat, and she's also running for Congress, but I went to her apartment to shoot a video for a thing she started called Sister Giant, you know, a kind of lean in, women getting involved, taking blah, blah, blah. And my first like improv into the camera was like, you want a war? You've got a war, motherfuckers. We're gonna, you know, like just a very angry, and she said, I think the way we should respond to this war on women is like this, you know? And I think about people like Rachel Maddow who talks about things like, and she's not spitting mad and her face isn't red, she's laughing,
right?
You know, and she speaks of this stuff, she gets it across, but it's small in her world, and I think there's power in that. But the point I was saying was that Marianne Williamson had just saw that thing that my dad wrote, and I'm sorry I'm all over the place, by the way. No. And she said, people feel very comfortable attacking women if they're not attached to a strong male figure. You know, I mean, there were many years that I was with Jimmy Kimmel, and he's a big Italian, kind of strong, outspoken guy, and nobody fucked with me.
That's interesting.
And as a single woman, it's very easy for people to feel comfortable attacking you. And she said, your dad was that strong man for you, you know?
Interesting.
That's interesting, yeah. It's interesting. I don't know what to make of it. I don't want to need a strong man, but I want one. I'm adorable.
You are. Sarah Silverman, we love her. I decided you get another little bit of applause. We're not done yet. I just wanted to give you some more applause.
I'm very scattered
I thought you hadn't
tonight.
gotten some applause for a little bit. You know, it's what you're saying about that video, like you've been doing in the last, I mean, I think since The Great Schlep in 2008, like you've gotten much more sort of up, yeah, we have some people who love that, as did I. You've gotten much more, in your own way, you've become like an activist, like you've done videos that are you know, your own form of activism.
Yeah, and I'm not that bright.
Well, I didn't accuse you of that.
Yeah.
I just said that you've been, calling someone an activist does not, but you are right. But it's not, it's you, but you've done, I mean, you're doing lots of videos that are also not political. You're doing a lot of very funny music videos and stuff, you know, all over the internet. That's great. But what was, you know, there's that tricky thing with entertainers or artists when they cross the line into, you know, this is how I feel politically and I'm going to try to persuade you or whatever. But I think what you've done in these videos, which I like, and I think it's sort of like what Marianne Williamson would recommend, is you've used laughter and comedy and tried to make people like, you know, you did your hilarious Sheldon Adelson video, which I'm sorry we don't have to show to everybody, where you made a very, very good proposal, I thought, to Sheldon Adelson. Well, you could describe it maybe. You could tell them a little bit about what you suggested to
It was
Sheldon
honestly
Adelson.
The first idea I came up with.
It was a good idea.
There was not brainstorming that took place before this video, but
we all know who Sheldon Adelson is, right?
Sheldon Adelson.
He offered $100 million to, he's a casino magnate.
He's a very wealthy crook, but
right.
But he and his money goes to you know, Republican causes, and he gave $100 million to the campaign of Mitt Romney. And I can't stop thinking of, whenever I think of Mitt Romney, I think of that bad lip reading with Mitt Romney. Ever see that? Go home and watch it. I think I watch it every like 2 months or so. It's just, it's amazing. Anyway, so I proposed that if he gives that money instead to the Obama campaign, I will scissor him, lesbian sex style, through to fruition.
Mm-hmm. Again, it was a really good idea, and you know, maybe it was a game changer. We don't know. You know, maybe he's
never heard from him. He probably gets that for much cheaper. I mean,
that's true. He is in Vegas.
Macau.
That's true.
And Vegas.
Well, should we take some questions? I think we should.
Oh, I think we should.
Let's turn up the house lights and take a few questions.
If this were an improv show, that would be lights out. I mean, it's a huge laugh.
Let's bring up the house lights a little bit. I think we're gonna have. I think, do we have some? Yes, let's hear it for our gentleman with a microphone here. Let's hear it for him. I think we have some others as well.
Since we're in a room of Jews, can I say one of my favorite jokes that I heard? That's not mine, but a Jewish joke, like a Jewy joke.
Sure.
Okay. This elderly Jewish couple go to tour, you know, the death camps, like recently. You know, they do the whole thing, and they're on a bus tour, and they get in a big fight. And they tour Auschwitz, and they're not speaking the whole time. And they get back on the bus, and the husband says, "I was wrong, you were right, I'm sorry." And the wife said, "Oh, now you're sorry, now that you ruined Auschwitz for me." Is that something else? I just love it.
That probably happened.
You know, I heard that it was a true story with Walter Matthau and his wife.
That sounds so... I want to believe that happened. Okay, so do we have Do we have any questions? Oh, I think somebody back there is. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Hi, loved you in Peep World, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
How do you juggle writing comedy and acting at the same time with just, I don't know, how do you do it?
How do you juggle?
That's a better question than it seems. I mean, because when I'm working on a show, I'm a very delicate flower. I am physically. I'm very fragile. I need a lot of sleep, and I know my limits. And so when I'm shooting something, I'm either days or nights. I can't go day to night. Today was a day to night day, but luckily I had a 3-hour nap. So I'm either shooting something and literally race home to get to sleep for the next day because I'm so afraid of not getting as much sleep as I need. Or I'm sleeping till 4 and doing stand-up at night, which I like that. I like it being either or. I don't mix them together well. I'm very fragile. Oh,
he seemed satisfied.
He was like,
he sort of nodded his head like, all right, I accept that. Yeah. I accept that explanation, such as it is. Who's next? Oh, there's someone right there on the aisle.
Which of the roasts that you've done is your favorite?
Is my favorite? I don't know. The Franco roast came out really well, but it wasn't as fun. I think maybe the Hugh Hefner one way back when, which was the first roast I ever did, and
What were some of your jokes on Hugh Hefner?
Oh, I remember saying to Alan King, someone from Florida just called. The last person who thinks you're funny just died. And that was when I met Jimmy Kimmel that night, and I remember my joke for him was, Jimmy Kimmel, everyone, he's fat and has no charisma. Watch your back, Danny Aiello, who was in the audience.
Oh, right there.
How do you come up with your material?
Well, it's funny, that last joke, that roast joke about Jimmy Kimmel, I suddenly, as soon as I said it, remembered where I was when I wrote it down. I was at a Crunch gym. And I had the idea, and I ran down and took one of their flyers and wrote it down. Sometimes I will sit and focus and work. And like I have a monthly show at Largo in LA, and I will always take that whole day and with my computer and be like, I'm a professional comedian, and that always is worth it. And I think, why don't I do this every day? I'd be unstoppable, but I think comedians inherently are lazy. But also they just come, I have no control, you know, much like a psychic. I don't know when it's gonna come, you know. Sometimes at night I'll smoke a little pot before bed, and I'll think of a great idea for a joke, but then in the morning I realize it's not at all even not a complete thought in any way. So I think George Carlin said, write stoned and edit sober or something. But I need to pretty much be sober usually. Sometimes I can hit upon something. But yeah, did I answer that? I have no answer for it.
How do you come up with, well, you know, it's just, at this point, I mean, do you have, to write your Largo set, you actually sit down and focus, but I mean, but even then, like, what's your process? I mean, it's just you. I mean, you're just thinking about things that have occurred to you. I mean,
yeah. Sometimes there are things. There are kind of. I mean, you can speak to this a lot more than me. You have probably a whole system, and but.
Oh no, I don't. I write on my phone. That's how I write.
I write so much on my phone, and I go, and I think to myself, people around me think I'm a douchebag, but I'm really being really creative right now. Just that there's like that legal pad, you know.
That is great. That is great.
I had lunch with Kanye West. He took me to lunch a few months ago. And,
I had dinner with him.
Yeah. No, I know. I don't know how else to say it.
No, there's no other way to say I had lunch with Kanye West.
And it was very interesting. And I remember he said that his idols were Steve Jobs and Walt Disney. And then, there's no reason for me to say this, but just to be whatever, I said, even though he's a Holocaust denier, you know, about Walt Disney, and he goes, well, what he does in his free time is his And he's actually very bright and earnest and wide-eyed, but you know, and what can I say? I'm in a Disney movie, but I will say that if they do not make a sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, I am going to speak my mind. But we had both noticed that we both use that Notes app on the phone. You know, him for rap lyrics and stuff, and me for buds of jokes. So we went kind of one for one, and he was like, weak is a description, weed is a prescription. And I was like, my grandma gets really heavy periods. Just kidding, she's dead.
What if he steals that for one of his songs? You're going to be so pissed off.
Yeah, but I stole his for this bit.
It's true. It's a good run. Who's next?
It is a good line.
Yeah, that's really clever, actually.
He's very, I think, yeah.
Loved you as Hadassah Guberman. That was.
Oh my gosh! Yes, Crank Yankers. Thank you.
I was wondering if you could talk a little about the rape joke that Daniel Tosh made. And I had read that same night you actually also made a joke about rape, and I'm sure it wasn't pro.
I don't know if the same night I made a joke about rape, but I can't also deny it. I don't know. I don't know what night it was. No, I wasn't there. But stand-up, especially live stand-up in a small, intimate club, has a context all its own, even like beyond your own material. He was saying something in the moment that was going back and forth with people in the audience. You know, he may be unlucky in that he looks a little date rapey. And, you know, if it was coming from someone who didn't look that way or whatever. This is what I say is fishy. It happened at the Laugh Factory, and so did the Michael Richards thing, and so did another thing. And I just think it's fishy when there's always footage at a certain club, and then the club owner is on the news circuit talking about it. I just don't work there anymore because I feel like it's a betrayal of the comedians, and he kind of uses it. It's just a little too fishy to have every time there's this comedian said this and it was caught on videotape at the same club that, you know, needs a little publicity.
Yeah.
But I just think you can't judge unless you are there, because comedy is just so dependent on the moment and the beats and the little words and the exchanges and the energy, and you just don't know what, you can't say like, nobody should do rape jokes, because there could be a brilliant take on such a heinous thing, same as the Holocaust, same as any major tragedy, heinous crime. Those things have to be legal in comedy, and nothing can be off limits because there's always some kind of angle on it that could be illuminating.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny. The Auschwitz joke is so great, and
I didn't write it.
No, I do think it's a true story. But I think of like the movie The Producers. You know, The Producers was made in I think around 1967. So that's really like only about 20 years after the end, after really the horrors of the death camps were revealed. That's, you know, very hard upon the actual event, and yet it was hilarious. It was nominated for Academy Awards. We forget that pretty much every horrible thing in life really is the fodder for comedy. And it's up to, I mean, I sort of feel like everybody should have their own sense of taste without prescribing to the world what we should all think is funny.
That's the thing is, whatever happened to saying, ooh, that's not my cup of tea.
It's not for me.
Instead of, nobody can enjoy this. I don't enjoy this because of how I'm hearing it in the context of my own life. And now I don't want anybody to. And I want to make a rule about it.
Right.
That's a very personal thing.
Right. But there's like, I especially also feel like with the internet, everybody now has a soapbox. And so it's easy for, like, you know, again, if a comedian says a joke that he gets some flack for, or she gets some flack for, then it becomes everybody has an opportunity for faux outrage and for, you know, for showing. That's like another, that's just servicing something in themselves. It has almost nothing to do with the act. There's not a lot, I don't think there's a lot of real outrage on the internet.
Well, how much of war and politics has to do with daddy issues?
Right.
Genuinely.
Right. Think about it. Okay.
I'm serious. Don't laugh.
Where is Mr. Microphone? Okay, we have some people over here on. Let's go over to this side.
Is that really his name? That's insane. He's the guy.
I know. Finally had to give in and do it as a living. Okay, here we go.
Hi. I'm curious, who are your favorite comedians that are performing today that aren't necessarily like your best friends, like you were saying, all your friends are comedians?
Did that sound obnoxious? All my friends are comedians. I think when you're a comedian, it's kind of, you stick together. You're kind of like island of misfit toys, you know? It's like if you're at a party and there aren't comedians and then, you know, Andy walks in and you're like, hi! You know, you're so happy. Oh, I love this question because there's so many amazing comedians right now. I always say Tig Notaro, who's becoming more and more famous. And, well, not in this room. You're gonna know her name. She's brilliant. She's magical. She is truly for everyone, not in a dumbed down way, but in
She's not Jewish, but check her out. She's really good.
She's Sicilian. Really good. But Tig Notaro. Wow, is she magical? The most amount of words with the most amount of laughs with the least amount of words. And yes, am I dating him? Yes, but Kyle Dunnigan is so funny, and he makes me cry laughing. Let's see. I don't want to mention. I mean, Louis C.K. and Zach Galifianakis and Dave Attell and Doug Benson and Natasha Leggero. Oh my God. And she's so brilliant and so funny, but she just happens to be tiny and adorable, and I want to eat her when I see her. And I know it makes her mad because she's like, I'm more than just this, but I want to, it's that Jewish thing of like, I want to eat her face. But she is so fun to watch and so neat, so funny. Chelsea Peretti, who's now on a show called Brooklyn Nine-Nine, is a brilliant comedian and a great writer, and you know, really kind of was one of the first people, along with her brother Jonah Peretti, who started BuzzFeed and Huffington Post, I think, even, and really took advantage of how comedy could be explored on the internet very early on. Who else do I love? Am I forgetting anybody? Jen Kirkman is great. Huh? There's a young upstart called Howard Stern, who is, I did his show this morning. I'm so glad it's over and went well. Whew.
Who's next?
Hey.
I'll come back around.
How can you talk about your experience doing Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee and what that was like?
My experience in doing Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee was much better than I anticipated. I mean, I knew Jerry, but we're not BFFs, and I was like, what am I? And then also, like, I know that he had mentioned, like, you'll be the first woman that I am. And I was like, how old are you going to get before you know that's not an honor? That's an embarrassment to you. But in all deference to him, I mean, I had it's just like therapy where I go, I don't have anything to say, and then we just talked nonstop for like 4 hours, and he, cut something out of it. It was a blast. It felt just like what it is and what it was supposed to be, which is comics love grabbing lunch. They love getting coffee and talking forever and doing bits and getting deep and everything, and maybe everybody likes that, but comics have the lifestyle where they can do it. But I would pick you. I'm just not picking. It's someone else who's picking.
One of my favorite jokes you do is in Jesus is Magic, and you say, I was licking jelly off my boyfriend's penis, and I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother. So I was wondering what...
This is you're right, is a great joke. And it pains me. It doesn't pain me, but a lot of people point that joke at, which I'll say it again. I was licking jelly off of my boyfriend's penis, and I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother. I write all my material, but this joke was given to me by a great comic writer named Claudia Lanau, who was at the Improv one night, and I sat down with her, and she had written it on a piece of paper, and she slid it to me, and she goes, I want to give you this joke. And I read it, and I said, oh, you have to just start doing comedy again, because it's a perfect joke. I can't take this joke. And I had, and she said, I'm never going to do comedy again. I'm not interested in it. She writes television and stuff, and she's like, I can't put this on CBS or whatever. I said, I'm going to take it. She said, good, I'm giving it to you. And it was painful because it was a perfect joke and I didn't come up with it. And it kills me, but it gives me a chance to at least give her credit where credit is due, is that was written by a very funny woman named Claudia Lanau.
Well, there you go. I think there's some people in the front. Oh, there you go. Yeah, she got the microphone.
Oh, congratulations.
She's so excited.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how the Matt Damon video came about and how you got him to do it.
On Jimmy Kimmel Live, he comically could not get good guests, as many talk shows when they start, I mean, he literally, the second guest on an episode was the man with the longest arm hair. And so because he was this young, starting out talk show that couldn't get good guests, he started saying at the end of every show, sorry, Matt Damon, we ran out of time, because, wouldn't that be funny if the biggest movie star in the world couldn't fit onto Jimmy Kimmel Live, which at the time could book no one, except for me, Adam Carolla, and whoever else were Jimmy's best friends. And that had been for a while, and they finally got Matt Damon to do the show, and it was under the condition that you don't stop saying that at the end of the show, because he loves that. And they were like, no problem. So he had done a couple bits before with Guillermo and people on the characters on the show. Jimmy's birthday was coming up, and we were planning his birthday show, and it was going to be, he wasn't going to know any of the guests, anything that was going to be on it. It was all going to be surprises for him of all the things he loves, as long as we could get it. And so a couple of the writers, his cousin Sal Icano and Tony Barbieri, thought I could do something where I'm saying, like a video where I'm saying, I'm so proud of you, happy birthday, and then it widens and I'm in bed with Matt Damon. And then we thought, well, maybe it could be a song, and I think Tony came up with the hook of I'm fucking Matt Damon, the clever chorus but of course it was. And I was on tour at the time, and Matt Damon at the time lived in Miami, And I went through Miami, and so I stayed an extra day, and we had 4 hours. The night before, we went into the studio and we made up the song. And if you remember the lyrics, they're very specific things that I just kind of riffed, and we made into the lyrics of the song and recorded it. And then the next morning, Matt came in. We had 3 hours with him because his daughter had a Halloween pageant, and he was not going to be late for it, which is just a testament to how lovely he is. And he listened. We went into the closet of a hotel room, and he learned it and recorded it. And then we just stole all these locations in this one hotel, and actually. And we made this video, and we ended up putting it on a shelf for several months because the Writers Guild strike happened. And just as it was winding down was his 5-year anniversary of his show, so we put it up then, and it became very big. And it was funny because we had put it on a shelf for so long. And I remember Jimmy and I were brushing our teeth at his sink before that show, and he goes, "I'm so excited. Everyone says that the video you made is really great." And I go, "Don't lower your expectations. It's a video. It's a funny video." I didn't know, right, but it was very good. And here's a funny story. There was a dance sequence, and we hired all these dancers, and they can learn a dance in 2 seconds, and then we just did like, could you see me pulling up my tights? They're up to here. Just kind of this, whatever. And but we were standing in between takes, and I was talking to Matt, and all these dancers were around. And we were talking about movies and stuff, and I asked him, I said, did you ever see the DVD of The Shining? And I asked him because there's this cool featurette and blah, blah, blah on it. I said, "Do you ever see the DVD of The Shining?" And one of the dancers went, "I was gonna say you look like her." First of all, that's fucking insulting. No offense to Shelley Duvall. And in his mind, what did he think my sentence was gonna be like? "Did you ever see the DVD of The Shining? I look like Shelley Duvall." She's very beautiful in her own way.
Okay.
If you didn't make it in comedy and entertainment, what would you be good at otherwise, or what would you want to do professionally?
There's something aggressive in
Yeah, that's very hostile. That has sort of a day job.
It's not like
tone.
What would you do? It's what could you do?
Let's just dial that back a little bit.
Isn't it funny? People always say you're so brave to be a comedian, and I think you're so brave to go be in an office from 9 to 5. I'd fucking kill myself. I always thought I'd be a teacher, or I would work with mentally challenged. I mean that.
But you never found out what to call them, so you didn't.
Mentally challenged people, mentally challenged adults. But anyway, I have a great love for the mentally challenged. Actually, I really do. I've worked with them in many various ways, and I have a kind of awe of them. And not all of them, they're not all the same people, but most of them. And also monkeys. I would be like a Diane Fossey. I'm not comparing mentally challenged people with monkeys, but if we were to compare humans to monkeys, as we do, all right. I would work with.
Do you mean monkeys or chimps? What do you mean?
I mean chimps.
Okay.
Chimps, apes, gorillas. I had a dream once that I was marrying a gorilla, and it was like a really profound dream where I looked in his eyes, and he loved me so much, and I felt like he would be my emergency contact. Light.
Good one. Good one. Do you know Bonobos?
I would be like a Diane Fossey type if there was a good plumbing scenario.
There isn't. No. Where's the... Oh, there we go.
But in short, I have skills, other skills. And I can type very fast.
I've never sat this close before, so I just wanted to say hi.
Hi.
That's what I get for sitting this close.
Aw. I can hear you though, and then I'll repeat it.
We'll repeat. Yeah,
You're doing an AMA, right, on Reddit?
It's you. You do. I said this AMA Reddit thing. Who does? Who? This is such a huge thing. That's such a big hit for like the HBO people. Are like, you've got to do this. I go, who goes on this? It's you.
So do you have any specific expectations? I mean, you haven't done one before, right?
I did one once before with my partners at JASH, Tim and Eric and Reggie Watts and Michael Cera, and we kind of did a group one. But this is just me, and I hope that someone's gonna like come to my hotel room and help me because.
When's it gonna be?
Is it tomorrow?
Ask me anything.
Or is it in LA? Is it Saturday or Friday? Or is it Thursday?
I thought it was today.
No, it's not today. What do you mean, tonight?
Right now, you can do it right now.
No, it's
You
like a
guys
computer
are all on Reddit, correct?
Yeah.
Everyone
Right?
here, I think.
It's just
That's
me?
like
Reddit is
It's
a
just
social.
me.
It's
Okay.
sort of a social network, and
I
it's
don't
like
know what it is, yeah.
it is, and you guys will ask her anything, right? You can ask.
It's
like
live, and people ask anything,
Right.
and I answer as much as I can.
right.
Tell them that you smoke pot, you like cats or chimps, that'll work too, and tell a joke or two. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
sir,
you.
that technically was not a question at all. I just want to say, but thank you for getting some attention. Now,
that reminds
can
me
we?
when you said
it was
everybody
cool.
here.
It was cool. Can we have one? That was good though. I liked it. I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
your segment is over.
yes.
Let's.
You're adorable.
I would like.
I'm rooting for you.
I would like
You
one
deserve
final.
love.
I would like one final question. Whoa.
Oh, everyone was
And
rooting for
sir,
this guy.
Before you ask
Hi.
this question, I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Sarah for a really great and.
Oh my God, this is so much pressure on this man to have a good
No,
question.
well, I don't want to put pressure on you, but I just want to say, since it's the last question, if you could in any way make it sort of sum up the whole experience that we've had, and just sort of synthesize for us kind of not just really what happened here, but just what's happening in all of our lives, so that we go out of here somehow changed and better. All right, your question, sir.
Well, first of all, wow. Thank you very much.
What did he say?
Wow.
My question is, you mentioned about Steve Martin, you mentioned about your favorite alive comedians. Who is your favorite dead comedian?
Oh, gosh. Ruth Gordon. I don't know, she never did stand-up, but she was a great writer and brilliant actress, and she makes me dream of my future. And dead comedians, dead.
George Carlin, maybe? George Carlin?
All deference to George Carlin.
No, not your
he
favorite?
Wasn't, no, I think he's amazing.
But not your favorite.
I was too young at a point where I would have connected with him. Also not going to say Lenny Bruce. I want to, but by the time he hit me, there was so much derivative of him that I couldn't appreciate the newness of him when he was breaking taboos. Oh, Madeline Kahn. Yeah, that's a great one. Who's answering this?
This guy from Reddit set a very bad example for the rest of the crowd. Now they think it's their show.
Are we just naming dead comedians now?
Right.
But I would say, I think as people that I looked up to as humans and as comedians that are dead, I always think of Ruth Gordon and Mr. Rogers, who, yeah.
And on that note, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.